Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. This is Susan Johnson, and I'm here with my co-host, Dennis O'Brien.
Great to be here.
And our very special guest, Denny Gates. Hey, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
He is our most special guest.
Yes, he is.
We picked him this is our pre-holiday show.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Right, right on.
Merry Christmas to you guys.
Very good.
Thank you.
See that he knows just what to say all the time.
Because it's the end of the year, and a lot of special things kind of happen at the end of the year with car dealerships, and we thought maybe you'd give us some visions and ideas about what's going on with different car dealerships.
An update on the industry.
Area. Yeah.
From your perspective.
So you might want to start off with some of the special things and then go to the industry.
Well, you guys just missed Free Car Friday, which was everybody got a free car. You didn't know about that?
Oh!
Yeah, no, just
we
kidding.
should have had you on sooner.
Just kidding. The industry's been, it's been a while since I've been on, and the industry has been like I don't know what it's been. It's been like the world. It's been crazy. And we had no cars. We had less than no cars, if that makes any sense. They were sold on the way in. And now we have some cars, which is great. Some vehicles. I should say the word vehicles, not cars. So that's where we stand on a real 1,000-foot view. We have vehicles finally. We have trucks. We have cars. And we have SUVs.
So people are looking to purchase vehicles, and I know that people were looking for that during the COVID situation, and then we ran into the differences in terms of the strikes that happened in Detroit. And so now I think that everybody's back to manufacturing here in the country, which has been a huge plus, I think, for everyone, including Detroit and other places around the country that are manufacturing our motor vehicles. So I just wondered, so we have a big popularity with trucks. Tell us a little bit about the trucks and maybe some of the differences in the trucks.
Well, we have, what I've seen come back into the market in the last 3 years are the subcompact trucks, which we haven't had. I mean, remember the iconic Ford Ranger, I think it left us in 2014 or 15 maybe, and there was very few made, but I think in large the big production was about 2013, and that came back a handful of years ago. And Nissan came out with a new small subcompact truck too, and we're finally getting that market where we just haven't had. There just hasn't been an emphasis on that vehicle. It was the biggest truck you could make. Was better. That was what it was for the last 10 years.
Yeah, it looks that way on the road, too. I mean, that's what I see.
You see a shadow and it's a truck. No,
exactly. And, of course, I love our truck that we got there from you. But it's a regular Ford F-150, and it's, it's good size. It's got a full bed and all that. But there are some new changes with the beds and how the gates work and all that sort of thing. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
That's an interesting question. There's the multi-function tailgates, the ones that open like a barn door, not like a barn door. They fold half down. They do this, they do that. You can put plywood in here and hold it up. You can pull this down and put a flagpole in the back. Like the amount of versatility in a pickup truck in the last 3 years make you spin.
Yeah.
It lights are under. It's got under cab lighting, under rail lighting.
I love that. Yes.
Spray and bed liner, Versatrack systems, power, DC power in the back. It's speakers. We got speakers in truck tailgates.
Yeah.
I think you can just live in your bed of your truck.
Well, you can certainly have a party with that. Speakers, can't you?
I love my truck, even though it's in Susan's name, and it's going on 11 years old, and it is still going strong. It is fantastic, and I bring it in to see Joe at Columbia Ford every so often, and they take care of it for me. And when I get the bill, I almost think I'm back in the 1950s. It doesn't cost much at all to keep it going. Gates does a wonderful job. Columbia Ford.
You can't say 50s. You were born, I think, in 1990, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. He's such a good-looking charmer, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a sweet talker. No, I wasn't. Actually, I did experience the 50s, I can remember when I first was driving, paying a quarter a gallon for gasoline. That's how far back I go.
Yeah.
My first car was a 1959 Ford Galaxy white convertible.
What a cool car.
It was a cool car, and I bought it used, and I had that top down all the time, and I was very popular. All of a sudden.
Did you have a surfboard for that thing?
No, I couldn't afford the surfboard.
The surfboard would have been cool.
No. I bought that car with money I made delivering papers and working on tobacco. My mother made me save, and I paid cash for that car. Unbelievable, but I love that car. That was my first car, and it was a Ford, and it was great. Red trim, white. Loved it.
All right. Well, moving on to the next kind of car, we're going to go on to the SUVs because I think a lot of people like the SUVs, and that's something that, especially when you have a family, you want to be able to put the kids and their friends in the SUV.
Yeah, that's been a fun. So we talk about subcompact trucks, and the other interesting is the SUV, that mid-size SUV with a third row now. That was a big, I think, across all platforms, a big increase over the last couple of years. Now you can buy that mid-size SUV that's better on fuel, that's got less maintenance than a full-size big truck frame SUV. So it's more affordable for a family. It's an alternative to a minivan, which I'm the biggest fan. I love minivans. Let's just say I'm a minivan guy. Love them, but it's an alternative. And if you're looking for different height reasons, transitioning, sometimes the van isn't as good as an SUV, etc. So the third row mid-size SUV, big accomplishment over the last couple of years.
Great, and that is something lots of families have. Who I know our families all like that style car, and
the kids don't have to sit in the same row.
Yeah,
for the little guys, they don't have to sit in the same row.
That's right.
Sometimes an arm length, different. Further
Yeah, that
away.
makes a difference.
Yeah. Oh, as a Grammy who drives,
Less bruised arms.
Is a taxi Grammy? I know. I know about those things.
Yeah.
But that
I don't want to
is
have to
one
stop
of
the
those
car.
Who
things.
Get
gets the
out.
back seat? Is that the biggest debate?
Well, who gets the front seat?
Oh, that's right.
Well,
You gotta get the front seat.
Riding
so
shotgun.
We have rules about that now. Have a handbook.
You have like a reward system and you pick them based on the stickers of the week?
Well,
It isn't easy.
It's
It
kind
isn't
of like,
easy.
if you want to have something to read after school, you must follow the rule book.
Let's follow the rule book. I like it.
Anyway, from what I understand, I did some reading today to prepare for the show. I always do, and I knew I was going to get a lot more information from Denny Gates than I could read anywhere, because he knows what's going on, but I did read which I was surprised to read that there are more sales of trucks and SUVs combined than there are cars.
Yes.
Nationwide.
Yes.
I was surprised.
Yeah, been that way for a long time.
I did not know that.
When do you think that did that occur? Because it used to be mostly cars, and SUVs were kind of the outlier, and trucks, of course, were just for working purposes. And I think a lot of people, one of the reasons I like to have a truck is it gives me a lot of options. First reason that I got the truck was because I like to put my kayaks on them and just go and not have to worry about balancing them on a car. The next reason I discovered was, hey, I can go to the store, buy furniture, bring it out, and I don't have to worry about getting it delivered. And there's all kinds of things. I can get rid of stuff too and go to the transfer station. I don't need hire anybody to do it. So having a truck is a great thing.
I do. I agree. I think that I think you see I don't know the timeline, but if I had to guess, I would say you saw a big transition in mid-size trucks. So that would be that F-150.
Mm-hmm.
Mid-size trucks. I would say you had a big transition in recent time. The most recent time, you probably had it in 2009 to 10, 11.
Mm-hmm.
10, so maybe 10 to 11, 12. Before that, late 90s, and before that, late 80s. So 88s, the 96s, 97s, and then again in the 12s. And I think it has to do with sometimes price point, bigger is always better. It was always kind of that way, right? Big, get it, bigger house, bigger this, bigger that.
It's American, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was part of it, but there's a lot of small businesses, so tax deductions on bigger vehicles and trucks and commercial vehicles and such.
Yeah.
So that would be a factor as well. But I think there's a lot when we develop as a nation, as we develop, we're developing and we're developing we're not developing necessarily more in a metro area as much as we are in a non-metro area. So we see that growth brings more vehicles and brings more trucks and brings more bigger stuff on the market. I think, and again, I don't profess to know.
I think that
When did they
makes
start
sense,
putting
yes.
back seats in trucks where you could have,
That's a great point.
Well, because that made a difference, I'm sure.
I think that would be that '97 market. I mean, they had it for here and there, but but I think you could get it as a main option for pretty much everything. What is it, like mainstream option?
Yep.
Probably, I would say somewhere in the mid '90s was a big time for that.
Yeah.
Because before that, it was a lot of extended. So remember, it was either a long 8-foot bed or a 6.5-foot bed with an extended.
Right.
And then the beds went as small as 5.5 feet now, and some of the, so there's been they've raked out the frame a little bit, and then they made more configurations. But in the auto industry, we have a universal platform. A lot of stuff's a unibody versus frame. So for the listeners out there, most trucks or all trucks are on a solid frame, and then you have the unibody platform, which is a way to manufacture across the whole nation, the whole world, and that gives you the ability to make a platform here and also develop it in, Europe. So there's a lot of manufacturing took on a universal platform system.
Yeah, so that's very interesting how you talked about the frames, because it seems to me like if you had one frame, then you'd have an easier way to put some of the visual in the back on,
Yep.
and it's finally connecting like before with the two frames. It was, I think, a little bit harder to connect everything that had to be that can be connected now that we didn't have back in the day when we first had trucks.
Technology and rigidity with
Yes.
the way they make a universal platform.
Yes.
There's a lot of strength. I mean, just look at the way you build a home today
Yeah.
versus the way you built a home in the 1800s, in the 90s, in the in the 50s, the 90s, when the 20s were a big time with an economy shift, right? So like, there's all of this enhancement and technology and safety and the weight of a vehicle today versus the weight of a vehicle years ago.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Of course, that's a big gas saver, too. With the
Yeah.
lighter vehicles, you have a lot of gas savings. And, of course, the kinds of things that we're using now for all vehicle manufacturing, much lighter weight, much lower on gasoline. So these are things that are really great energy savings. And, the other thing that I wanted to start chatting about a little bit is the electronic vehicles. And these vehicles that we have, there are been a lot of chatter about the electronic vehicles and where we are today and what kinds are there out there.
I mean, there's everything out there. I mean, it's interesting. You have ICE, which is your traditional gas vehicle, right?
Yep.
And then then you have a hybrid, and you have a fully electric vehicle.
Mm-hmm. I have a hybrid, and I got at yours,
Yeah.
at your place at Columbia Ford, and it's the C-Max. I don't think they make them anymore.
I
but-
know, and I love that.
That's the best
Yeah,
car I ever
yeah.
had. It is great, and the mileage is fabulous. It just is, been a fabulous car. I've really enjoyed it very, very much. And so, it's going to be hard for me to move along. But, and they should probably bring back the C-Max. I don't know.
Well, it's a dynamic time, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're changing platforms and you're changing the way you build things today, and you're designing things for the future, you're making a lot of adjustments, and there's sacrifices along the way. And I think that's where we are as an industry. I think it's been a very interesting. I was reading something from the Associated Press, and I scanned it, and it happened to come out a couple hours ago. But as a nation, I think we're going to be. don't know, in the high hundreds, almost a million, electric vehicles for this year. Electric. And so it's a very interesting time because I don't know. Last time I was on the show, I don't know what that number was, but it was not close. A lot of different manufacturers out there. A lot of different ways to do it. I think you have, like a revolution out there a little bit, and it's interesting. When you do it for a living, as I do, it can be anxious times because you don't know what the next move is and what your infrastructure needs to look like, and how do I take a battery out of a vehicle, and what's that look like, and how do I handle it? We're big in the collision business, so how do I pick the car up at an accident, at a live accident? How do I handle that car when I get it to the collision center? What does that risk look like for the cars around it? Do I have the protocol for that? How do I repair the vehicle? What's that look like? So a lot of training over the last 3 to 5 years, and when you're in an industry live, you don't get to observe it. Sometimes you're in the you understand that you're knee deep into what you're doing. You almost don't know what it looks like out above water.
I certainly understand that very well. That is no matter where you are, what you do. That is, I think that's a classic analysis of no matter of everything that when people are involved in something. But I do want to do a little bit of a comparison and contrast analysis between a hybrid, which is as you beautifully described the last time we were on the show about how when you put your foot on the brake, it charges the battery and saves you the gas. Okay, so you've got a battery in there, but it's not a lithium chip battery.
Correct.
And then the EVs, the electronic vehicles, fully electronic, they may have a little gas tank just in case. But most of them are lithium chips.
Correct.
So that's a totally different type of technology.
Correct.
And it's different type of repairs.
Correct.
It's a different situation. Why don't you give us your analysis on the differences, just in terms of how the hybrid works with the battery. Let's start with what kind of a battery does a hybrid have?
Well, I think that's an ever-changing scenario.
Yes.
But I like to talk about the function. What I think is, because I think this is more to the viewer, I think the interesting part about a hybrid vehicle, if you almost think about it, I had this 1954 tractor, Farmall Super M DTA, and it would start on gas actually, and then you'd pull lever and you convert it to diesel. So like a hopper motor got it going and everything. So if you look at a hybrid, you almost want to think about it. I think the easiest way to scenarioize is like, all right, this car starts on electric and then transitions to gas. It doesn't always have to, but that was the easiest way to explain it back in the old days. But I like to talk about performance because everybody buys a car and loves to have fun. These electric motors, whether it's a fully electric or a hybrid, they are a lot of fun off the line. They make they make things happen quickly, right?
Yes,
They're
do.
very fast, all torque. It's like it's like when you were a kid and you had those little DC powered car, and they just zip around and fly around. So that's the same thing with these cars today. They're very fun to drive, no matter what they are, and I think with the hybrid, you end up with an average fuel economy that seems to be quite sizably different than what a fully gas or the ICE vehicle of yesterday was. And in that space, the comparables, the last time I was on this show, were I think there was a huge difference. You'd get 37 miles per gallon on a hybrid, and you could get 26 miles per gallon on a gas vehicle. Today, you're probably, 40 miles combined, 38 miles combined on the hybrid, and you're probably, 29 to 30 miles per gallon on a traditional gas. And then the electric is all about range.
Right.
So, and you kind of to get off that fuel economy, and you get off range, and you go to range.
Yes.
So it's just very interesting.
Yeah, so the range is something that it depends on the type of battery you have. And there's different types of batteries, but they're all lithium. And I just don't understand how you could get a range of, say, 400 miles in one battery and 150 or 200 miles in another battery.
So I don't know that answer well.
Yeah. But it is a question, and it seems as though there have been advances in the electronic vehicles to increase the range, because it's been the complaint of most people when they have an EV.
And I think there's a weight versus the size of the structure, what you're moving. Like you take a Hummer, right? The word, remember Hummer, right? So I just want to say, out there in the world, the Hummers are back. We sell them, and they are massive, like they've always been.
Yeah, they are massive.
But the funny thing is, I think that's probably the most quintessential guzzler of fuel that I could ever say. If I say the word Hummer, it sounds like it's just, I don't want to be parked behind that or a jet. But now they're all electric. And they're the fastest thing you've ever seen, and they're quiet, and they're cool, and they crawl.
Yeah,
they crawl.
Yeah. That's
They
such an
crawl.
amazing, and they are lithium batteries too.
Yes.
Okay.
And the weight inside of these vehicles is tremendous, and the when you drive them is substantial, and I think that must play factor into their ability to keep the mileage.
Hey, we're gonna break for our sponsors, but this is Susan Johnson. I'm here with Dennis O'Brien and our very special guest, Denny Gates, and we will be right back after these messages for more information about cars in the future, cars today, and cars in the past.
Hey, it's Dennis O'Brien back on Let's Talk About It with our producer Matt Rupar, my co-host Susan Johnson, and our very special guest Denny Gates. Denny Gates,
Thanks for having me.
one thing I want to mention is Susan was talking about sponsors. Well, the main sponsor of this show for like the 21 or so years we've been on has been Gates. Has been Gates GMC, especially. Was it GMC Nissan? What
Nissan, GMC Nissan.
GMC Nissan. You also sell Buicks out there,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I had a Buick I once loved. And I have dreams of having another Buick someday, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
Well, I just want to say, Gates gets it.
Gates gets it. Yes, Gates gets it.
And we take anything in trade.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a goat. And come in. Anyway, I don't even have to borrow it. Anyway, and also Columbia Ford.
Kia, Columbia Ford, Kia.
Columbia Ford, Kia.
Yep.
Those are the two stores that we focus on in your sponsorship. But you and your dad, Craig Gates, and wonderful guy, you have done so much for this community in so many different ways. And one of the great things you've done is to sponsor this show, because it gives our listeners an opportunity to hear from all kinds of people, politicians, business people. Anybody who has something interesting to say, and that's pretty much anybody.
Well, we do arts, and we do
Art and all kinds of stuff.
I mean, education. We do a huge variety of things, and it's also, we're really working to make sure the community is connected, and that's the whole objective of the show, is to connect us with the community and make sure people have access to local information, and that's the goal. I mean, and it's the way I like to do the show, and I know you do too.
Well, we have lots of superstars in this community, and Denny Gates and his father Craig are definitely two of them.
They've done wonderful
and we
work.
really appreciate all you've done for the community, for the Elks Club, and helping to rejuvenate the Elks Club, which is a really important part of our culture here. And we love having you on the show to bring people up to date on the automotive industry. And I mean, you're in it at a time when everything's changing so fast in all respects, and throughout the economy, because it's been a technological takeoff. It's taken off ever since Edison, and it's going to just keep growing and growing and growing. So, obviously, in the business that you're in, you have to make adjustments constantly.
And the biggest adjustment for us, we only can sell what somebody wants to buy. Right. So, I think bygones are the days of selling someone they don't want something. Not that we did, but I mean, those days the consumer is so educated, informed, and it's wonderful to work with this customer, the modern customer. They're a lot of fun. But the days of just having a busted knuckle wrench are over, and the days of understanding computer programming to calibrate the speed sensor, the car, are here.
Right.
And it's so interesting over the last few years. I can remember not too long ago, 7 years ago, you'd have these funky looking boards with all these little graphs on them, and you have it in the shop, and you'd have hydraulics to lift it up, and that would be where you're setting the cambers for the lights, and you're doing all these other things. And now, that's not even, that doesn't even exist, it doesn't exist.
Sure.
And now you're worried about sensors and the seats, and are they acting properly, and what's going on with the sensors that are in the sonar style sensors that are in the bumpers, and the technology today is just that's where we focus as an organization. We're an organization automotively of over 300 employees in this local market. And its education on the future of the technology is our biggest effort and it's always going to be our biggest hurdle because the changes are everlasting.
I'm glad you mentioned the number of employees because that's another thing that you do for the community is provide lots of great jobs, and that is so important. I mean the automotive industry employs a lot of people. It's a big part of our national state and local economy, and that's another reason why we like having you on here because the changes are always coming, and you keep up with the changes.
I just want to follow up on that because that's a good point, an excellent point. Because we have the tech schools, and my brother went through tech school, and he's an auto mechanic. But since he went through tech school, the changes have been phenomenal. And of course, he's a fabulous mechanic, and he's been able to keep up with everything. And but I mean, I'll never forget when they started out where the cars had a so-called brain, and he says, "Oh, well, you're the problem with your car is it's the brain and
control module and the brain."
Yeah. And those kinds of things. That's like the beginning of the electronic work that has been going on year after year, I think, and advanced technology in terms of how the car operates. And it used to be quite a rare. You used to be able to and need maybe from time to time. A cable to jump for a dead battery or a battery that's going down. Today, it's a very rare occasion when you'd have to do that unless you run the battery down yourself. But it is a much different situation, and doing the jumper cables and stuff is a little bit different too.
Well, I learned something from you earlier, and in terms of fuel cell technology, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got something for you.
Okay.
What do you think are one of the biggest service hurdles or service customer situations we have on a day-to-day basis? You ready?
Okay, ready.
Because I'm not going to let you. I don't want you to even guess wrong.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Sorry, but I'm taking the suspense. Pairing the phone to the car.
Oh.
That is as the technology increases in phones,
yes.
and as the technology increases in the car, they don't keep up.
No, they don't.
And I'm going to use a pun. I wish they would talk to each other. But they don't. So that's
great.
my biggest. And I just got a new phone, and I went up 5 years or something.
Yeah.
And it's true. They all it's what is going on? So I think the phone pairing to the car. Everybody uses their car and their phone with perfect synergy now, which is good. But there's a lot of overlap there, a lot of things going on. And that is an interesting, people have apps on their phone for their car, and people have their car Bluetooth paired to their phone, and they use things on the screen here that are on their phone, and there's mirroring going on, etc. And that is necessary for every new customer or new buyer of a new product. It becomes a necessary real quick. I can see people come in and say, no, I don't need that. They're back in 6 months saying, hey, this isn't working. And then my friends over at Wireless Zone, which I love, I'll say, go see them. They got you. It's the phone, not us. No, we don't do that, but it is.
That is a lot
we
of
know
time,
those phone
right?
numbers because we're always talking back and forth to try to make it work because you're coming to one of those places on North Wyndham.
That's right. And I've got I got my iPhone, and then you've got the way that it works when it's plugged in to the charger thing. It says, oh, you got to do the Apple this and that.
Yeah.
And then I unplug it because I don't want to see the Apple stuff. And I go, okay. But nevertheless, I can always get. Don't even answer this, Siri. But
my car's ringing.
And Siri goes, sorry, I can't do that.
my late grandfather, and he had a car, and he was in Florida, and I remember him calling. This is years back. My car's ringing. His phone was because we had set it up for him, and Yeah, that was the funny thing. He said, "My car's ringing." He called me from the house phone. My car's ringing. But there's a lot of that now.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
There is. It's
Everything's
funny.
together now.
I'm thrilled to have the capacity to say to Siri, please call so-and-so, and they call, and then Siri goes, hey, you got a text message. I said, go ahead, Siri, tell me what it is. But I don't have to touch my phone. I just chatter and get Siri to, behave and do what Siri's supposed to do. And
Well, just in the years that we've had you on here, pretty much annually, to update us on the industry, I can still recall. It seems like only yesterday when, I think we were talking about the Chevy Bolt, and then you said, "Well, Nissan has the Leaf," and I had no idea. I mean, and that wasn't that long ago.
No.
And now as Susan mentioned before, people are talking about electric vehicles, and electric vehicles are definitely they're going to become more prevalent. There's no question. I mean, it's beyond a doubt. The question is how long, because I mean, we just had that issue that came up this year with Ned Lamont's proposal, which was probably a little bit ambitious in terms of, switching over from gas-powered vehicles to.
Well, let me just say that was not Ned Lamont's proposal. That was something that was developed in California.
You're right.
It was legislation that was passed in 2004.
Yeah.
And it was a situation where regulations review was to create regulations based on the 2004
Right.
legislation that was passed and that we'd all agreed to have every kind of sale would occur but no new cars except electronic vehicles would be sold after 2035. So that was essentially the regulation that was created based on an agreement that we had and ideas for tax credits for the electronic vehicles. So as somebody who used to chair the Regulations Review Committee, you can only do something based on a statute. So it was based on a statute that was put into effect before Ned Lamont was the governor.
Right.
It was also something that had to be addressed with the DEEP commissioner, DEEP commissioner was adamant about continuing on with that language, when in fact there might be an adjustment in the language. I haven't looked at the language honestly, but that's essentially I know about. I looked at the articles and the language that we had proposed, but to match up the statute and the language to make sure how that worked and whether there was more breathing room in the existing statute is the question, and it also becomes a situation now where we are looking at also being able to be in compliance with the agreements that we had with the state of California, but also so we can keep the tax credits, keep the federal money coming for the electronic vehicles, and just take a look so that we're not as stiff in terms of the regulations that we proposed that didn't quite make it. So it's a little more nuanced than that.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to bring it up so that you would explain it to everybody. I actually trying to help you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. That it was actually the Regulations Review Committee of the legislature. They have this
Correct.
committee that when regulations are issued based on statutes, they always have to be based on statutes, and the Regulations Review Committee has to pass on the regulations. And they decided that the regulations were a little bit too ambitious in terms of.
They may not have even been necessary. They might have been,
Right.
based on the 2004 statute. I mean, it could have been, maybe there could be more wiggle room in the regs. I mean, I see some regulations. Let me just say, when I chaired the committee, that you could drive a freight train through.
I thought you were going to say a truck. Or an SUV.
I should have said an
Or
SUV.
how about an SUV?
Should have said a truck.
Have an electric Hummer
How
through.
about a hybrid
We
vehicle?
crab
You
crawl
have?
through the electric Hummer.
Fuel cell vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had another loose end from the first part of the
Okay,
show
sure.
because you mentioned you were talking about how much fun it is, both of you, how much fun it is to drive your vehicle.
I live a hybrid.
What was it called?
The C-Max.
The C-Max, your C-Max, because every once in a while, one of the ways I keep the mileage down on my truck to 47,000 and almost 11 years is when I have to go, to Bloomfield or someplace like that, I will, and it's available, I will take the C-Max.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes actually, one thing that all people who have a truck know this: if you have a truck and other members of the family do not, you know they're going to be borrowing it, right? and they do. And sometimes, and they put more miles on it than I do.
And more dents.
Right.
Let's just get that out there. The family members that borrow the truck always put a dent. No.
They certainly
Well, that has happened in the past.
yeah.
A little scratch or something.
Yeah, the old
Well,
truck.
what's this? You know?
What did you do with my truck?
What did you do to my truck? Oh, it's 10 years old. What do you mean? Hey, you're going to have some, it's not going to be pure. Anyway.
It's a truck, and so you can.
Anyway,
you have it
I have to say, I love driving the C-Max. It is fun to drive.
Yes.
When I first started driving, I turned the key and Sue would say, "Okay, you can go now." I said, "Well, I don't hear anything," But it is amazing. It is amazing, and I enjoy that car. So I'm kind of hoping, Susan, I'm saying this right on the air, that if you do get a new car, an all-electric vehicle, that you keep the C-Max and you let me drive it once in a while, more often than I do now, which is not much at all, because I enjoy driving it, and it's especially when I have to go an hour or so. It's
maybe
nice.
you could, get the electric car.
I think we can fix this up for all the viewers. I think they would agree if we had a poll. I think we will sell Susan a new electric, and then we're going to take your truck from you, and we're going to get you an electric vehicle and a hybrid. So we're going to have 4 cars, one for each of you, and one of each style for each of you, and then I'll let you borrow the truck, no scratches or dents.
Oh, wow, thank you.
But at my age, I thought this F-150 that I got back in 2013 was my last vehicle.
Oh, I've heard that so many times.
Yeah, when you get old, you start thinking that way.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's still going strong. And Sue had that old. Remember that Cash for
Silverado.
Clunkers?
I had the 1985 Chevy
The
Silverado.
Chevy Silverado you bought used.
And I bought it used, and it was like,
25 years?
There I was. I loved that truck. I loved having that truck.
Yeah, that's a yep.
Yeah, but it was great, and I got it, like I said, for my kayaks, and
Gates ended up with it.
yeah.
Columbia Ford.
Yeah, well, we did trade it in Cash for Clunkers. And,
That's right.
And
That's
my
right.
brother,
Made a great
so
deal.
I gotta tell you, my brother called me. He says to me, "You are trading your truck in." I go, "No." He says, "You better trade that in." He says, "If you get what do they call it?
T-bone.
T-bone. If you get T-boned, it'll explode because that truck had the gas tanks on the side."
Oh yeah, like
And
saddlebags.
so it was just the same as the Pinto back in the day.
Oh yeah,
And,
my mother's Pinto. Yeah.
the back, if you get rear-ended.
My
So,
Pinto.
but anyway, so I went right down to your place, and I got myself a new truck, and I was quite pleased with it till a tree fell on
It was very nice.
when we went back, I wanted to go back to that electric. We were talking about regulations.
Sure.
I just wanted to clean it up for the viewers at home and say one thing. I think that none of us know where we are going to be tomorrow with this with
Sure.
regulation.
That's
Correct.
I don't think any, and I don't know why I feel compelled to say this, but I don't think any consumer has to be concerned about their purchasing in the next couple of years. And I don't see an immediate adjustment to their lifestyle and the way that they want to live their car life. I think it's a very interesting time. It's just cluttered with new product, and I shouldn't say cluttered. That's not the word. There's an abundance of new product out there, but it is hard to decipher.
Yeah.
And I think it's very interesting. It's a great time. This isn't a plug to my dealership or anybody's, but it's a great time to spend some time at a dealership when looking for a vehicle. The biggest change in our business over the last 20 years has been online purchasing versus in-store purchasing. And I think we have always been a place where you have to have something for service, and you have to have something, and you do for sales. And I'm an old school guy that still writes out checks, so I prefer. I'm not an online banker, so I don't need to do my transactions online. I like to do them old school. I don't know why, but I do. So I think doing your personal stuff and doing your deliveries by way of a traditional closing isn't a bad idea. It's a very big purchase, but we can do it any way you like.
I can't imagine buying something like that online.
And
I just cannot imagine doing it.
And it's done often, done daily.
I can't believe it. I would want to know. I would want to go into the store, hear all about the vehicle. and I don't want to,
I try to buy my cars local, my appliances local.
Right.
There's certain things. So,
Me too.
but
Me
yeah,
too.
because
Exactly.
I would like a car I would like a car that I have a relationship because
Yes.
it's the relationship's not needed to buy it; it's needed to keep it going.
That's right.
You've got that right.
The appliance you can buy anywhere, but you want the service.
Yeah, and then
That's
you
right.
don't get the service, and so we're so glad we have local appliance store now right here in town,
Yep.
and you can
Let's
go
get it,
there
man.
and
Good friend of mine. They're great friends of mine, and they're
Okay.
great people.
They're
Yes, they
great,
are.
and it's
And they're
another way to keep the
Top
community.
shelf service.
Yes, they are. And I've gotten all my appliances when necessary from them, and they come in and install them. They take the old stuff away. It's like no hassle, and you can call them for help anytime.
And their prices are
Price are right. The
Prices
is
are
right.
right.
Price is
better
amazing.
than most.
Better, absolutely. I mean, I
you
checked
know,
them out.
yeah,
And I checked
yeah.
out the prices, and my goodness, I was thrilled.
Yeah, but this isn't for Jeff. I mean, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. No, it's a total joke because we're great friends. But the
They'll be happy with us.
yeah,
They'll
but
be happy
at
with
the
us.
end of the day, I think that the technology, just getting in a new vehicle today, the weight. Like I was driving a full size SUV with a twin turbo V6 inline six twin turbo. That SUV traditionally had a V8 motor.
Mm-hmm.
The difference, the weight, the feeling of that I'm driving this full size SUV and it feels light to me.
Yes,
And it's
yes.
it's impressive.
It's an amazing thing. Just changing from a V8 to a V6 makes such a huge difference in the way it feels.
Way it feels.
Because that's what happened
Very
with the truck.
interesting.
When the
Yeah.
tree fell on our truck, the first truck we got from you, we went from a V8 to a V6,
Yeah.
and the feeling was completely different. And I was just
Tremendous.
absolutely thrilled with the difference.
What is my truck?
It's a V6.
Oh.
See, the black
wouldn't-
one
I
that we
didn't know.
bought was a V8.
Oh,
I-
yeah. Well,
so
I
always,
did like that
I
black
always
truck.
about a V8 engine back in the day, but then I got a car that was a V6 that was a 2000 Mercury Mystique
And then the gear
from you.
issues.
And
Yes, you bought that Mystique from
yeah,
Gates.
yeah, I got that from you. Yeah.
Columbia
I
Ford.
have kind of a funny story about that.
Well, we don't have time because we're heading. He says
Very
we got-
Mystique-y.
He says we got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Quickly, I asked so many questions about the car. They thought I was from Ford Company and testing how they were doing with sales. So they had bets going there.
That's the kind of
That
customer.
used to happen. So that was a big thing back in the day.
That's what I
And
want.
so when I bought the car,
I saw you correct somebody today. I can understand why they thought that.
Oh, yeah. No, she is a.
so when I bought the car,
She's a
the
good
guy
customer.
who sold it to me, he says, "I knew you were for real."
Phew, she's not one of those fake ones. That was a big deal.
She's
We
a real
used-
customer.
We used to get those. Back then. They were called mystery shoppers, and we got a lot of them.
Yeah.
Every month,
Yeah.
and they were a lot of work.
No. She bought a car. We're down to our last minute. Get Denny. Any final words for our listeners?
Yeah.
Great to have you on the show, by the way.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
Best food in town over there at Thunderbird Cafe over at Columbia Ford.
It
They
is
have great
great.
food, open for breakfast and lunch Monday to Friday. And so stop in, have something to eat, and check out some cool vehicles. And if you're not looking yet, but you're around for lunch or something like that, come in and get yourself acclimated to just what's going on. And it's a lot of fun. And we will help you out. And no need to buy. Just come in and enjoy learning about what's going on.
I always enjoy being over at Columbia Ford. The service is great, and the people are nice, and it's always a fun time.
It is, and I love to have breakfast or lunch there and go back and see what kind of vehicles you have and ask a lot of questions about.
And every
how
once
it
in a
all
while, I'm lucky, and I run into Denny Gates.
She asks
over
a
there.
question she already knows the answer to.
works. But that's a lawyer in me.
Yeah. Okay, we're right down to the end of the show, Susan. What do you have to say?
All right, thank you so much, Denny
Thank you,
Gates.
thank you.
And happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll be back next week with a brand new show.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
happy holidays from Matt Rupart, Dennis O'Brien, Denny Gates, and Susan Johnson. We'll be back next week with another great guest.